Welcome back to another episode of Garden Path. Today we have traveled over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house, which is now Paul Cook's house, formerly his grandmother's house, and he has lived in this home since he was 9 years old. I won't tell you how many years that is because it's just a couple. But anyway, he has transformed this gorgeous home into a spectacular garden-filled room of areas that will blow your socks off. So thank you for joining us today, Paul.
You're very welcome.
Paul's a good friend. He's a master gardener in many respects of that word. And why don't you tell us about
Well, yeah, this is
home.
This is my grandparents' home, and I've lived here since I was 9. And it was a typical yard, a typical garden. These are the only 2 bushes that are original to the home.
And what are these? Because you see these in a lot of homes that were built in the 40s, 50s.
Yeah, they're just regular yew bushes that originally years ago it was a multitude of bushes out here, and then these just sort of took over, and I feel like the caretaker of my grandparents' shrubs, so I tend them and keep them, and everything else that you'll see in the yard is all different. I've changed everything and replanted so that it's a little bit more modern and fun, and that you'll see as you go around.
Well, I can't wait to show the viewers what you've done. And let's take a walk to an area that was a problematic area, and he transformed it into a gorgeous little garden.
Okay, yeah, it's right over here.
Great. So Paul, I am facing a beautiful garden with pines, perennials, herbs, and gorgeous flowers. What was here before?
This area was sort of my bad spot before. It was just all grass, and over here where these birch are, there were 2 very, very large old spruce trees that were just really old and dry, and they just need to be replaced. So I had them taken out, replaced all the soil, put in a walkway, and gave me a new area to garden.
A lot of people have spruce trees in their yards, especially if they're old established trees. What did it do to the soil for you?
It just took all the nutrients out. As much as you watered, it would just take that out, and I couldn't grow anything underneath it. Even if I tried to enrich the soil, it was just old. It needed to be redone.
So it must have been frustrating, because you're a plant lover and got gorgeous things here, and then they would die.
Yeah. Well, like even this redbud was here when the spruce were here, but it just wouldn't grow because of it. So I took the spruce down, and you can see it flourished.
Well, everything is just thriving now and landscaped and decorated and doing so beautifully well. I can't wait to see what's in store in the back.
Yeah, I got a few more things. Yeah.
Just a few?
Just a few.
Oh well, let's take a walk around the other side.
Okay, great.
So now we're on the side of Paul's house, and at one time it was home of
There was just one very large blood-good maple that was here. It was planted by my grandparents, and it took up pretty much this whole area, and then it just started to decline, so I had to have it removed, unfortunately, which gave me the opportunity to put a whole bunch of different things in, which, as you can see, has really changed the area.
It's beautiful. So everything in here is a perennial or a shrub, and you don't have to redo it every year. Mm-hmm. A couple of annual seeds that pop up for color.
This little stand came back on its own from some plants I had here last year. Not in the best of areas, but it looks pretty good. But everything else, it just comes back on its own, and it's pretty maintenance-free.
It's just such a pretty splash of color. And he also tops it off with pots of hibiscus.
We have some hibiscus, and then there's a angel trumpet, Bergmansia. This one's called Tickled Pink, just about to open. So probably tonight or tomorrow night. Very fragrant at night. So it gives you sort of a reason to come in here and enjoy something.
Now these 2 are not winter hardy for our zone. What do you do with these in the winter?
Both of these, I'll let them go, let a little bit of frost at this, or some cold. I'll actually just cut it in half, and I'll put it in my garage for about a month, and just let it drop all its leaves, and then I'll put it in the basement and just forget about it. Something like this, though, I would have to put in the house and just keep it as a house plant.
So how old is this one?
This one's about 3 years old. They grow very, very fast.
They're very cool.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be strong to move the pot that is.
Yeah, I have a big 2-wheeler for all of these things. You'll see some more in the back that are much larger than that It's a lot of work, but it's well worth it. Yeah.
Well, when you pull up with an 18-wheeler, we'll know we're in trouble. So,
I've rented a few before to get all these plants.
well, I can't wait to see what you have in the back.
Okay, let's go see. So Christine, this is the beginning of the backyard. So it's a little bit different than the front. As you can see, it's a little bit more private and a lot more plants.
It's gorgeous, and it's really hard to believe that your whole yard is about a half of an acre of land. So
this used to be all grass, and pretty much I've taken it all out and added some hardscape, walkways, and just used all the space. Like even for right here, use the side of the house, and this is a climbing yellow bleeding heart, which I originally got the seeds for it in England on a trip. And it comes back reliably year after year, and these flowers just go from maybe May right up through Halloween.
they're gorgeous, and they're so delicate, and they do look like a little bleeding heart. And you said this is originally from England, that you grew from seeds.
Yep.
That's amazing.
And the hummingbirds love it, so they just are on it constantly.
I love hummingbirds.
Yeah.
Now, Paul is not only a great gardener, he is a consummate stone wall builder, because he told me about the hardscape.
Well, this used to just be a bunch of grass and dry dirt, so everything eroded down onto here when it would rain, so we built these walls, and there's another one up there to sort of terrace it. And then this is sort of like my shade dappled garden. There's jack-in-the-pulpits and trilliums, just a whole bunch of woodland sort of feel for a theme. And then I've added many containers you'll see throughout the yard, just add some color and some different textures to the yard.
And how many container gardens do you have?
This year I think I topped out about 100.
That's all?
Yeah, just
Oh
about
my
100.
goodness. And they're all filled with color, so you get your splash of color from the annuals, and I mean some of the things you can bring in the winter and keep them going.
Yeah, some things all over winter, and some things gives you a reason to shop the next year.
And the pots, everything is just stunning. I'm floored.
Thanks.
So I can't wait to see the next room.
All right.
What are you going to show me?
Follow me.
Okay.
So once you get back here, it's even more private. I have quite a few annuals. These amaranth are annuals that came back from seeds from last year that dropped. And
these are huge.
Yeah,
Look at the size of these things.
I don't know why they're so big this year. They're much bigger than they were last year. The birds love them in the fall, and even my rabbit loves to eat the leaves. They're edible.
They'd make a
You can
good
use them for
hat.
cooking. Yeah.
Really?
But I
What
just
would
use them for ornament.
What would you cook with this?
The leaves, I guess you can eat. The seed heads, apparently there's some sort of a grain you can use for them. I'm not that adventurous, but and then this is one of my angel trumpets, similar to the one we saw earlier, but this one's called Cypress Gardens. Unfortunately, we just got past the biggest flush of flowers. These are all pure white, all of them, and at night is when it really shines, because the flowers puff up and they just emit the most beautiful fragrance all night. And then in the morning they just sort of wait for the next night.
They're still fragrant. And how old is this plant?
I've had that about 7 or 8 years.
So would you do the same for this one as you did over there? Cut it down?
Yeah, because I have to bring this into the basement for the winter. So I'll probably, right before Halloween, I'll cut the whole thing right in half, which kind of kills me to do, but I have to have a strong moment. And then it just all goes into the compost, and the plant goes in the basement.
Boy, it's just, everywhere you look, it's just something beautiful to see.
Yeah, and you'll notice from here, you really can't see from the street into here, so it's very private.
Now, is that a Pachysandra? It looks a little shinier.
That's Pachysandra. It's called green sheen. So it's not as vigorous as the regular Pachysandra, which is a good thing, because regular Pachysandra tends to go everywhere.
Right.
So I have the regular, I have the green sheen, and you also see when you go down the yard, I have some variegated Pachysandra also.
Well, I can't wait to see what's back there.
All right.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Well, Paul, you have created such an oasis, and what I think is really cool is you said that you had to take a tree down over there.
The Japanese red maple that used to be on the side of the house that my grandparents had planted was very sad, almost devastated to take it down, but I found this variety of red maple. It's called Twombly's Red Sentinel. It's a sport of the blood good that was on the side, but this one will fortunately stay small. So this sort of took its place, and
Well, that's such a
good
nice
find.
It's a nice story because you get to keep a little bit of your grandparents' legacy alive, and a new variety that
On a smaller scale, yeah.
that better fits your life. So you have these wonderful little fiddleheads made out of iron.
Yeah, it's
Tell me about
rebar. So a friend of mine who is in Brattleboro, Vermont, is an iron artist, and he made these. He's at the flower show every year, and so I asked him if he could make me a custom fence that I could use to, because the dogs would always come out of the back door and they charge down through the yard and they tear everything up. So this is sort of a nice, artistic way of, slowing them down, but also it's just a nice focal point for the garden.
So speaking of focal points, you have, I'm looking at something that doesn't look very friendly. It looks like it's got spines like a dinosaur.
Yeah, this is a monkey puzzle tree that typically you don't see them growing around here. They're definitely not native to here. They're borderline hardy, so it luckily survives for me here. But when I got it, it was just about this tall. It was just a baby. So I've had it about 12, 13 years now, wow. And it survives our winters, thankfully, and it's very dangerous. It's super sharp.
It is really sharp.
It got its name monkey puzzle tree because apparently in the wild, monkeys can climb through it as sharp as it is. And I guess someone, as the story goes, was scratching their head and said it's puzzling how a monkey could climb this tree. So apparently that's how the name goes. My goal is to see it make a pine cone before I die.
Aww.
But it still has a ways to go before they make cones.
So if you have a guest you don't like, you just say, back up, back up, back up a little bit more?
Yeah, many people have gotten poked from it, I included. So
this is another little area, another little garden that is filled with colorful annuals that you mentioned they reseeded themselves?
A lot of these things have come back. Some of the annuals I've planted, but the amaranth, the verbena, a lot of those things have come back on their own from year to year. They just self-seed. And then I throw in some other annuals and perennials just to sort of balance it all out. Everything
looks like it's no work at all. I don't think you work in this garden.
Maybe a couple hours a week.
It's killing me, look! So you've got rooms everywhere. I want to hear about your tropical plant there.
Most of the things here tend to be some tropical plants. I have hibiscus, more angel trumpets. These are cuttings that came from someone else's plants. Plumeria, licanas. This one here is a night blooming cereus, which, as you can see, it has a whole bunch of buds that probably have a couple more weeks to go. But when they open up, they only open up at night, and they will open up into this big ball. They're very, very fragrant, pure white, and then by morning they're gone. It's just a one-night event. But I've got 5 blooms on there that I'm excited to see them open.
And just once a year do they bloom?
There might be a couple more, but typically it's one flush per year, and it might throw out a couple more as the season goes on.
Well, there's so much to look at here and so much interest, and I love those concrete leaves. What's the history with those?
This is a leaf casting that I kind of get into a little bit of a hobby about 10 years ago, and I started in a magazine, so I started casting leaves that I was growing around the yard. So that's one of them. That's a hosta leaf that I've cast in concrete, and it can stay out all winter. And the birds love it because it'll fill with water and they can drink from it.
Love it, love it. And if you can see here, he's got varieties of hosta that are long and lean and with red petioles and variegated, and it's not just the solid green one. So there's so much interest in every piece of foliage that he's got in this garden.
And most of these will take quite a bit of sun because it's a very full sun area for quite a bit of the day.
Well, I want to go see what's under there. So at the end of a long day of gardening and weeding, which I haven't seen a weed yet, you can come into this beautiful little haven and relax.
This is sort of the final retreat of the day. Many hours have been spent down here just relaxing. The dogs hang out, company comes over, we put a fire in the chimney, and it's all lit up at night. There's little lights that run through everything. Very, very peaceful.
Well, you've created a little oasis, and it's still hard to believe that you have a half of an acre of land.
Yeah, and there's just neighbors right beyond all the trees, but it's very private. And from where you're sitting, you get a great vantage point of all the different levels of the garden.
Well, it's very nice. And I also noticed there's not a mosquito today.
Yeah, it's very few. We've been pretty lucky lately. I do treat all of the fountains and bird baths with the little the dunks, so that can change the water a lot. But yeah, it's hit or miss with the mosquitoes. It's been a bad season for them.
Yes, it has. Well, I'm ready for a nap. Do you mind?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Absolutely. When you get up, we'll do some more weeding.
Well, you said we had some work to do, right?
We do. You can help me plant a shrub.
Okay.
Yeah.
See ya. Well, one thing I've noticed in this garden, Paul, is that there is nothing ordinary. From your plants to your statues to the chairs, everything is just unusual and special. So I'm standing here. What is this? What can you tell me about it?
That is a salt marsh cedar. That in the spring that will be loaded with very light pink blooms all over it. It's sort of a coastal plant, not really along the coast, but I'll grow anything I can get to survive. So it's been there for many years. It's very happy there.
And this
that is
cousin-it looking thing?
It's a little whimsical looking. I had a plant there that just wasn't doing so well with our cold winters, so I took it out and then I found that. So it's an Angel Falls weeping white pine. So that's going to take up a new residence there.
So they all have an interesting story, an interesting shape.
More about finding unusual shapes and varieties and things that are a little bit non-conventional.
And standing behind us,
that is a magnolia called Butterfly that I put in about 15 years ago. It got bigger than I imagined it would, but it seems to be happy there. But in the spring and early May, that is just totally loaded with yellow flowers.
Oh,
it's beautiful.
Sounds gorgeous.
And there's a Japanese white pine in the corner. This is a Chinese clethra that the bees love that when it's in full bloom.
Well, it's a lot of work.
It sure is.
Now, can you offer the viewers any tips? Like, what do you do for the winter? To put this to bed? You've got a lot of concrete monuments, statues,
yeah, so
fountains.
When late fall comes, after I've cried a little bit that this is all over, yeah, it's so sad, but it gives you a break for the winter. But all the containers that are planted, I'll empty them all out. Some of the tropicals I'll save and bring them in as house plants. But everything else, I'll take all the soil out of them. I save most of the soil, the potting mix for the next year. And I will clean out all the containers. And most of them are frost-proof, but most of them go under the gazebo, tipped upside down. I stack them up, cover them with a tarp, and they're protected for the winter. All the statuary, the chairs, those things all will also go in. But I'll leave some of the bird baths, a lot of the ornamental ironwork will stay out just so that you can enjoy things. Things like echinacea and a lot of the perennials that are here, I just let them be. Especially the echinacea, the birds will eat the seeds out of that for a food source part of the fall and early winter. And then everything else just sort of, I clean it up a little bit and leave it till spring.
Did you cut anything back besides?
Some things that I know are not going to really do well all winter, like the lilies. I know those are going to look kind of, they'll tip over and be a mess. I'll probably cut those back. And things like hostas, the leaves get a little bit, mushy and might hold some disease. I'll take those out. But most of the things that have some sort of a structure or bones, I'll leave them for, just some ornamental interest for the winter. And also, maybe a food source for the birds or any of the other critters that need to be around. I don't clean it up 100%. You want to leave a lot of leaves that are tucked into the crowns of some of your perennials and shrubs so that, the beneficial bugs can overwinter. The crowns of the plants, which might be susceptible to our cold nights, those are going to be protected for the winter as well.
Oh, just amazing. So
and then spring will come and you'll do it all over again.
That's what we do it because we love it, right?
Yep, mm-hmm.
So you said you had something to do now?
I think we're going to do it.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Since you're here and you're another gardener, I've got one last shrub that I have to plant.
All right, let's go check it out.
Okay.
Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Garden Path. I hope you enjoyed Paul's home as much as I have enjoyed listening and hearing about all of this. This is Christine Paxia. So tune in next time for another episode of Garden Path.